Influencing, content creation. We're talking about its future, but I think it's also going to give us an opportunity to talk about it present and where it came from. Joining us in that conversation this morning is Joel Rao. He is the co-CEO of Dentsu. He'll tell us what that's all about, but he's here all the same. Joel, good morning.
Good morning, Drew. How are you?
I am well. How are you doing?
Very fine.
Good. You just reminded me that we had a conversation five years ago.
To the date, yeah.
Yeah, when the world was locked down.
When that was our new normal.
Yes. And it's interesting because we're talking about a new normal today, whereby we see the Internet of Things being used for business, for, advertisement, for convincing, for influencing, really. And that's the world that we step into today. So welcome to the hot seat.
Thank you.
Now in person. Let's welcome you properly, shall we? We go to the African continent. We are here. Every week we go to a different country. Mark is going to tell you the country that we are in today, rather this week. He'll share today's proverb with you, and then you'll interpret that for us. Fair enough?
Fair enough.
Okay.
You said Internet of Things. I remembered I was once in a meeting, and there was a guy in that meeting called IoT. And then the meeting was about the Internet of Things. So I needed to know whether they were talking to IoT, the guy, or IoT, the Internet of Things.
Well, it could have been both, Mark. Take it.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
So, Libya is where we are at.
Yep.
I don't know what you know about Libya.
The former president,
Muammar Gaddafi. As in, he was the tourist attraction. He went to Libya.
I was a visionary, by the way.
He went to see. Well, Muammar Gaddafi, rest in peace. The proverb that he must have approved is where the turban moves, there moves the territory. Where the turban moves, there moves the territory.
Where the turban moves, there moves the territory. I'd imagine culturally, having seen themselves as part of that Arab community, there was a lot of trade that was going on, and I think it was meant to showcase that where they set their sights on, then they will move as a people. I think if I was to bring that home, in my understanding is, where you decide to set your sight on, you go for it in that way. That's how I'd imagine it, having heard the proverb for the first time.
Okay. Do not worry.
Yeah.
Everyone here has heard it for the first time today. and your interpretation is correct.
Okay.
It is your interpretation. Yeah. To quote one famous city. So you're correct.
Indeed.
Yeah.
It is yours, so you can't be wrong, can you? Well, certain things that you can or cannot be wrong about, and that helps us get into our conversation this hour. Influencing, content creation seems to be the thing for that everybody's saying, well, you know what you can do is that let me create a YouTube channel or let me create a TikTok account and let me start putting my content out there, and maybe somebody is going to be bedazzled by my approach and then start paying me. It seems to have caught the world like wildfire at some point, and everybody was an influencer. Everybody was a content creator. Reintroduce us to this world. What is it about? Where did we start whereby now people could influence?
I mean, surprisingly, influence has actually been with us from time immemorial. But I think what really brought it to the forefront, I think, was the Western influence, especially in the US, when the Kardashians came to the picture. And then suddenly $1 million companies were created based off of the content that they created and the shows that they had, and brands have been doing it in the past. I remember growing up, I don't know whether you guys remember Michael Power.
Yes.
Guinness,
yes.
And if you ever thought about Michael Power, you always knew Guinness, and it sort of drove that influence from an advertising point of view. Fast forward, you had your brand ambassadors coming in, and you'd have just one key figure who would actually represent a brand's truth, right? That has now evolved. because social media came into play. And when social media came into play, and referencing my example of the Kardashians, what ended up happening was that we got to experience what I refer to as two-way communication. So Web 1.0 was where you could go to the web and you read everything that you have, but you never got to respond to what you have. Then Web 2.0 came with social media, whereby you see content, but then you can respond. So there's a two-way communication. And that's really where the emergence of the creator came about. And a whole new economy has emerged out of it, whereby people with a following, people with a community, and not just any community, an engaged community for that matter, can now have a opportunity to monetize that community, through brand advertising. So it's just moved away from the traditional sense. And based on the question that you've asked, it's influence suddenly now becomes the new currency of this new creative economy that we have. And so that's really how it has come about.
Interestingly, I'm a brand ambassador.
There you go.
So I feel what he's saying.
Brand ambassador of what?
Of what?
Of Funded Next, which is a proprietary trading firm.
Okay.
So I'm actually going to South Africa end of this month to receive an award on their behalf because I represent them in the continent.
Omera.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, don't be angry.
I was just saying.
We are sorry.
I'm
we're
a brand ambassador too. For the B churches.
Please, Joe, don't worry too much about these people. But isn't that the thing? I mean, understanding that essentially what you do now, you're being your everything, then would give you the opportunity to represent something or someone or product, service kind of thing. But the thing is that as it started, but as it came more realized as a way of then being able to do business, everybody and their pet dog Rufus then
wanted to jump on it.
Exactly.
Yes.
Did it water down the effect or the potency then of this thing, which would essentially be a fantastic tool?
I think one of the things that has at least been very clear to us was that yes, everyone has jumped in, but not everyone understands that it's not just about having a camera and just being able to speak to an audience or build an audience for that matter. It's as simple as that. It's actually a lot of hard work, and there are tools, there's knowledge that is required for you to have. These different channels have different algorithms, for example. So how do you create content that actually fits within these channels? It's also understanding what your audience wants at the end of the day. Dennis, I'm sure when you were starting off, you had to understand why is it that people follow you online. What is it that they want from you? And then out of that, then you can create content that actually correlates to them. Same thing with this program. Like, there's a reason why every morning people tune in to listen to the guests who come in and to all of you and your takes and your hot takes that you'd have. It's the same thing with everyone. As long as people need to understand that, then it becomes an easier way of going about it. But what ended up happening is that everyone and their dog Rufus joined the play. Yeah.
Okay. Speaking of everyone, I've realized that the most ascribed to career in Kenya today is content creator.
Yes.
And yes, we all create content. When you write on Facebook, you're creating content. When you dance on TikTok, you're creating content. But when does it switch from being a content creator into an actual career? Because especially on TikTok, and I know this is going to land me in a spot of trouble, but I like trouble. TikTok, I see a lot of people dancing. Not so many of them very well. Some they dance because, like Dennis, they're handsome, so people look at their handsomeness or beauty for that matter.
TikTok.
I
Then
said
it's-
they're handsome.
The
like
internet
you, not,
never forgets.
not dance like you. Yeah.
Note, he did not say I'm not handsome. He said I don't dance. But anyway, moving on.
Yes. So the question is, when is content creation a career? When is it fun? And when do you know that you've broken that threshold? Because honestly, I was forced to get on TikTok because of a project I'm doing. I'd sworn I'm not doing any more social media additions. Then I got on TikTok and everybody's dancing, and 3/4 of them are not dancing well, and they're content creators. So I still don't get where the line is between the industry and, Dennis shaking his wobbly legs.
Let me put it this way. Why do people go on social media? Why do people go on the internet? They go on the internet to be educated,
Right.
and to be informed, to be entertained.
Yes.
Right? And if content doesn't play one of those two roles, then why are we
You're
there?
gonna
So, to your point,
Yes.
those people who are dancing are actually entertaining.
Yeah.
And they're
Somebody's
just-
watching.
Yeah, somebody's watching. They're vibing.
He's watching.
Yeah. You know, the most interesting content that's consumed is people eating. You just watch someone eating. It's a phenomenon.
Yeah, that's what I want to understand.
Yeah.
Because I think there's someone who made a record the other day, took $32,000 in earnings in a night from people watching her sleep, right? You need to. Man, no, true story. It's true,
It's
right?
true, it's true.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ndu is looking at me like I'm making this stuff.
You know, you're
up.
live streaming yourself sleeping.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I could do that.
It's better than waking up.
Please start, we follow.
I know. Watch me
No,
see.
in fact, tomorrow morning, yes,
Yeah.
because we'll not be here. The three of us will do that.
We could do that actually. Edna,
Yeah.
we could make something out of that.
Yeah, we should.
And,
Yeah.
see
So,
and see how far it would go.
yeah, explain that to me. What is that phenomenon? It does not make sense. I come from the time we used to take 3 years to watch a movie because Rambo came out in 1982 and we watched it in 1986.
Yeah, there you go.
And things like that. Now, someone will pay to watch someone sleep.
Or Mark
Or
eats
Kanyari
chicken.
preach.
Yeah.
Or Mark eats chicken.
You know-
for
Oh, yeah,
example.
that's another one I need to know.
Human beings we're peculiar. Our interests are different. What you may find entertaining is not what I may find entertaining. For example, would you go and watch someone sleep?
I'd
Would
much
you, would
rather
you
be
pay
sleeping.
to watch someone sleep?
That's what. Listen, my brother. The beauty about turning 40, which is the theme of today. Not only do we stop seeing,
Keep it moving.
but not only do we, but we also stop understanding recent phenomenon.
Yeah.
Right. Like there's a whole genre of music which, when they start singing nowadays, I understand nothing from the beginning to the end.
Yeah.
How is that? Like, explain to me the psychological, social interaction that happens there.
I cannot begin to start explaining
Yeah.
the psychological and social. I will be lying if I said I would understand that aspect. What I can tell you is that people's interests are evolving.
Yes.
The same way taste in music is evolving. The same way what you used to watch in 1986 is not what is being consumed today. You waited to watch a 3-hour movie. Today, people are consuming soaps in 8 minutes segments on social media. Things change.
Things do
Interests change. And that's the beauty of the human mind. It's dynamic. It's not what you'd expect it to be.
Yeah.
And I think that's the phenomena that creators are coming onto and actually, what we as a company decided to also do,
So that's interesting that you say that.
Yeah.
So
One more question on the same thing.
Yeah.
What is ASMR?
I have no idea.
Okay.
Yeah.
Siko peke yangu. That's what I wanted to know.
you can find. I'm sure we can look that up
Yeah.
and see exactly what it
Yeah.
means. It's a good feeling that you get just from I guess watching things, listening to things.
Yeah. And things that are just new.
That's different.
Yeah.
You enjoy the sounds of things. It's like
Yeah.
me and ASMR and this thing that I found where this guy who's coloring stencils with 3 different colors, and I can just watch it for hours.
There you
It's
go.
ridiculous.
And you find it interesting.
I do.
Yeah.
Or a lady
Yeah.
peeling garlic with
Yeah.
something, and it's
Yeah.
just interesting. And so there was a time when the whole idea of DJing hit the market, right? And everybody wanted to be a DJ.
DJ.
Thank you, Mr. DJ. Anyway, And so there was a DJing school. There was a most famous one, and they opened a school for DJs, and everybody then, went and learned this thing, how to do it properly. And he had quite some of the best DJs coming out of those trainings. Now, the talk of the town is that there's a Dentsu School of Influence. And is it the same lines where that we're what are we doing here exactly? Teaching folks to hone their skills? How?
Yeah, so, and that's a very great question. So the Dentsu School of Influence is it's a sort of love letter to Kenya's creative future, if I was to artistically put it in that sense. I've mentioned that, influence is a new currency in this creative economy. And what we found out as a business, Dentsu is for those of you who may not know, Dentsu is actually an advertising and marketing company, the world's largest communications company, and one of the big ones in Kenya now. We have been working with quite a number of brands, and obviously creators, influencer marketing has been a conversation that we've had in a lot of boardrooms. What we realized is that people who started influencer marketing back then and built their communities sort of understood, how to work with brands, how to create content, what content, is suited for which platform. And as we went along, that set was a very small set. As we went along, everyone started to jump on. The young kids in university started to jump onto this trend. And we just got to realize the more we worked with what we refer to as nano influencers, the smaller, creators, with the smaller communities compared to the others who have millions, didn't necessarily have that understanding. And there's a very massive gap that we noted in that market. And so for us, what we wanted to do is we wanted to bring together the knowledge that we had in advertising, the best of platform understanding with, TikTok, Meta, Snapchat, all these platforms that are out here that people are creating content on, as well as brands. And create a sort of environment where we can accelerate these young people's understanding and knowledge base and skills on creating this content. So because social media has democratized quite a lot of these things, we felt it was important for this same knowledge to also be democratized, to be just put it out there so that they understand. And that's really the basis of where the school was created.
Okay. So, what is it? Folks come, join for a while, learn some of these things.
Yes.
Do they graduate, get a certificate? Streamlined, standardized by whom?
Good question. So, the process that we went through was a very rigorous one. So, when we launched the school back in February, it was an open invitation for people to actually apply to the school. And we had over 1,000 applicants coming in. And we only could take up 100. So we actually streamlined it to 300. Of the 1,000 applicants, we had certain criteria. You need to have at least 1,000 plus people who follow you on your Instagram, on your TikTok. The other thing is that you need to have also you have to be a consistent content creator. And obviously, content that's also, PG. And then as long as you can be able to work with a brand, I think those are some of the things that we can actually be able to put in place. The other thing that was really important for us to also look at is your ability to engage with your community. What ended up happening was that out of the 1,000 who applied, we shortlisted 300, and so we needed to cut that down further. So we had another recruitment sort of interview session with them, whereby I don't know, you guys are in media, you receive a lot of PR packages, you're invited to go and attend events, and in return you amplify. So we sort of mimicked that setup, worked with a few brand partners who created an event where they can actually, the 300 can actually come in, interact with each other, have fun, play games, listen to music, all in a bid to amplify that event. So that was for us to be able to shortlist that down to 100 people. Within that event, we looked at the content they created, and we said, okay, we have a cohort that we can actually work with. And out of the 300, we got the 100, who ended up then attending a 5-day intensive school. This 5-day program entailed brand partners coming in to teach people, first and foremost, to teach people about law. Intellectual property law. So we had the very first session we had around was IP. The content you create is your own intellectual property. How you go around going about contracting in the right way, because again, these people have never experienced this sort of thing before, working with brands. The next thing we did was talk about the wealth that you create out of this. How can you invest it? So we had a lot of partners coming in to talk about wealth creation, wealth management from a creator's space. And then we also had quite a number of partners coming in from the platform side. So we had all the big partners, Meta, TikTok, YouTube, coming in, talking about what sort of content works where, how can you take advantage of algorithms to be able to create the content that is needed. And more importantly, we also brought other established creators to also come in and talk about their own experiences, their own pitfalls. What are some of the mistakes that they made that these young people shouldn't make as they're on this journey. And then at the end of it all, they are actually issued with a certificate. What people do not know is that Dentsu, being an international company, the Dentsu School of Influence is not only running here in Kenya. We're running it in South Africa. It started off in Kenya, and it was, a brainchild here. It was immediately taken to South Africa, Nigeria, Ghana, and Spain. So those are the first 5 markets that we're looking at, with the hope of growing it across all the Dentsu offices around the world. Now, the beauty of this is that what my hope and dream, sitting as a leader within Dentsu, is to ensure that the creator who works here is actually exposed to the creator who has gone through the same experience with different cultural nuances in Lagos, in Cape Town, in Joburg, in Madrid, to be able to have this connected community of doing more. Now, I don't know whether you've noticed, but creators who connect with each other from different countries, you end up amplifying your own community. You end up growing your own community. I'm not connected to your community, Dennis, but if I created content with you today and we collaborate on that content, your community will see me for the first time, and I will grow my community from you, and vice versa. And that's really the dream here, because if we're really talking about a true creative economy, then it's about empowering the people who are going to be the holders of that currency with the right tools, with the right knowledge, but more importantly, to be able to actually have that virility effect of growing that community that they have.
How far do you actually think this can go? I mean, before we take a break, in terms of the world of influencing and content creation, collaborations, I mean, we've seen it yield, millions and in dollar currency for a lot of folks who've done it. And though that may be one of the key targets, what else can actually then be achieved through this new form of advertising?
So first and foremost, it's a new form of advertising. It's opening quite a bit of interesting opportunities. Gen Zs today, allow me to zoom out a bit for you guys here. Gen Zs today don't want to be told what to do.
No.
They want to co-create with you. And this is a very interesting thing, because if you look at the established brands in the market right now, you're not going to shove those brands, those products, those services down the Gen Z's throat. Gen Z's want to co-create with you. Gen Z's want you to create a product with them, for them. And that's the reality of the matter right now. What this new economy brings to the table is the opportunity to create new products, new brands that we've never experienced before. And more importantly, what then comes out of this is an opportunity also for employment to be created. 5 years ago, did you ever think of a creator as a career to pursue?
I did.
Oh, you did?
It's my job to see such things.
10 years ago, it wasn't the case.
Oh, no,
yeah.
No.
And that's the beauty, for us, we see this as a opportunity not just to create new products, new brands, new services that have never been seen before. Also, new careers are coming to the fold as a result of this. Yeah.
Sheila Masasabi says it's a rare occasion, it's a rare sighting. I think of David Attenborough, where she says that two people that she went to school with are in the same room. One of them is Joel. Who is the other?
Yeah.
Because it's not me.
Who's this?
Sheila Masasabi. Who is the other person that she went to school with? Joel is one of them, obviously.
Why are you looking at me?
I'm looking at you.
I suspect this is probably because Sheila Masasabi. Well, she's very interested in this conversation this morning, and one that we're having around the world of influencing and content creation.
Rao.
Yeah.
I've had a chance to travel a bit, and one of the things that disturbs me today, today's Friday, Sunday. If you go to Nairobi CBD, every road within the CBD is flooded with young people dancing.
Yeah.
Okay? And I look back at content creation in this country, and sorry, I'm going to use this word. It's somewhat trashy. And there's a difference between content creation and viral content. I don't know whether there's a difference. You'll explain. But what we tend to see a lot in the Kenyan space is, it's my opinion. Somebody will disagree with me, but it's just my opinion. A lot of the content we see is very shallow or controversial or toxic or trashy. And that equates to content creation. I'm a content creator. You look at what the person is doing, and it's like, again, it's my opinion. There is nothing there. Turning your back against the camera and twerking, to me, is not content creation. All right? But it appears to the
Some
Gen
would beg
Z
is that there's a lot of content there, but
well, I couldn't agree more. But maybe I'm the wrong audience. Rao, maybe I'm the wrong audience.
Yeah.
But to me, I just back up a bit. There's a young lady who stormed TikTok with that. And it kind of worked, I think, for her. So everybody else seems to be copying the same trend. And I keep thinking, these people don't have jobs. So they're on TikTok for so many hours doing that same thing. And you flip, you go. I don't know whether it's the algorithm. That's all you see. So I sit and wonder, is that all there is? Is that the current trend in Kenya?
But even before you bug Joel, how did the influencing start? What was Kim Kardashian's claim to fame, if you remember?
Well, what they were doing, what they were doing,
A watershed.
Well, you see, I have come to accept one thing to be true. For our generation, we had a line where content was of a certain pedigree and repute. For this generation that was born when Kim Kardashian was starting with Ray J, right? That generation has grown up with a very different mentality. And I ask myself, if I was 22 and I was jobless and TikTok can give me flowers, rings, and lions, and I was blessed in certain circumstances, would I not do the same thing? Because sometimes we judge people morally when the economics of their day make sense. In fact, if
How are you going to combine both of those?
I'm just wondering how I'm going to combine these two.
Okay.
and not lose your job.
So, first and foremost, Dennis, yes, it's your opinion, and you're entitled to it, but that's not the reality. And let me be the first person to
disagree
with that. Yeah, You see, just like in journalism, when you had shows here, you know, we had Jimmy Gathu doing Jamadelic, you know, we had Club Kiboko, we had all these shows happening, right? Those were shows that were written and created for the audience, but through a reputable media house, KTN. What social media has done, it has made every single person with a social media account a potential media house. That's really what it has done. It has democratized everything. Now, with that in mind, yes, you'll have some people doing the trashy content you're referring to. However, and I'll say this with a lot of boldness and a lot of conviction because of what I've been able to see, there is really, really good content out there. I met these two young gentlemen during the School of Influence who created a sports show on TikTok. And all they talk about is sports. Guess what? TikTok globally awarded them for the sports show they had as the best sports show content they had. We have people talking about money out there, business news, like even news today. Like you know, there's a lady who goes on Twitter and just talks, and Twitter and TikTok, and she just talks about news, but from a Gen Z lens. You have people dissecting the finance bill in ways that I haven't seen done yet in appointed viewing, you know, across our media houses. So basically what social media has done, Web 2.0, all it has done, it has made every single person with a social media account a potential media house. Someone now has a mouthpiece and an audience to talk to. How they engage that audience is up to them. There's really, really good content out there. There's so many good podcasts that exist today around so many things, around relationships, it's not trashy content, it's content that actually builds you, it's content that educates you, and ultimately it will entertain. So as I said before, if it does not educate you, does not inform you, it will entertain you. So which of the three within that triangle, you know, would the content pieces, you know, fall under? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know how to answer your question, but I hope I've answered.
No. You're totally fine.
Yeah.
I am the risk taker here.
Yeah.
The question I want to ask, and probably now tied to Dennis's question.
Yeah.
Elucidate for us, or rather even shed light on how much money are these young people actually making. So let's say per view or per number of followers, especially on TikTok, because I know that's the one that makes the best money. Instagram, I think, is
actually surprisingly it's Snapchat.
It's Snapchat that makes the most money.
But Snapchat pays creators very, very well.
All right, give us this.
And if you're not on Snapchat, please get on Snapchat if you want to make money.
No, I am on. I'm on everything. Whether I use it is another question. But tell us about this money thing, because at the end of the day, whatever it is you're doing, right? Like the lady he referred to, she bought a house for her mom, right? And that's big, right?
Yeah.
You know, how much are these young people making? No, let me not just even say young people. How much are people making?
Yeah. So look, let me zoom out a bit to give you context. Yeah. The way advertisers, you know, and this media houses, the new age media houses, the new media, the YouTubes of this world, the TikToks, the X's of this world, the Metas of this world, the way they make money is there's already an engaged audience there, right? The advertiser will pay money to these media houses, and then a percentage of that money goes to
the content creator.
A percentage of that money remains with the media house. To what percentage varies. YouTube does the same thing. So you create content, you see an ad there, you watch the ad, the advertiser is charged, a percentage of that money goes to the creator, a percentage of that money stays with the and let me call the creator the publisher, whoever is publishing the content. That model has existed since the inception of advertising on the internet, since 1999. It has always been there. What's really interesting now is that now brands now coming directly, they're going beyond the media house there, and they're going directly to the creators of the content, because now they can say, hey, over and above us doing these skippable ads on YouTube, can we have a product positioning in your show, right? If I was here and I had my soft drink bottle here and we are streaming live, and every single time we go on break, I'm sipping it. What does that do to the psyche of the consumer who's there? If this is cool for Dennis, it must be cool for me.
I can have it too.
It's a new way of doing things, right? And it's psychological in a way, right? So there's that aspect. Now, to your question, it varies. And this is one of the big things we talked about during the School of Influence. It varies because it depends on, number one, how many people do you have in your community? How engaged is that community? And then based off of market pricing models that exist, how much would you charge? And so it varies. So there's no one answer. You'll have someone charging 50,000, you'll have someone charging 500,000. So it really varies. Yeah.
Perhaps let me reframe my question. Is it a viable career path if you have the talent there needed and the information needed?
I don't think talent is enough. It's never going to be enough. I would say discipline and hard work.
Yeah.
Consistency. And when I talk about discipline, it's the consistently to do that. Whether you're doing it well or not, consistency and discipline and that hard work that goes into it is important. Number two, it's the knowledge and the information that you have around what you're creating the content. So if you're creating a subject matter around technology, for example, I want to be the subject matter expert around technology. I'm going to review every device that comes out in this market. The moment it hits the market, I'm going to be reviewing it. I'm going to be unboxing it. I'm going to be saying how long this battery lasts, or the camera, is it good or not? All those aspects, storage, everything. If I'm going to do review around technology, then I need to be consistent about it. I need to be well informed. I need to have all the knowledge that I have. And then the content pieces that you create, what works for what audience in which platform.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Joel, even as you say that, so I think of two people.
Yeah.
And it's interesting for me because they cut across age. And, now that we talk about content creation and influencing, we seem to think that it's a preserve of younger folk. But that's not the case.
Yeah.
There is one lady in Kenya, I think she could be my grandmother. And she says one-liners. They're one-liners, literally. And they're hilarious. And it's obvious that she's got a team behind her. But it's just the way she looks and what she says. It's off the charts sometimes. But it would be like giving it advice or the funniest things. And she says them. She is not polished English or anything, or the lights, camera, action.
Yeah.
She's in her natural habitat. And she says these things and they're hilarious. But then you take away some of the things that she says. But that aspect of it being consistent is interesting because then it can create something for you. Another one that strikes me is Kabane Lame, who doesn't say a word on any of his videos, but he's probably, is he not the top content creator in the world right now?
Without saying a word.
Yeah. But he's been consistent in what he's done.
Yes.
But that his claim to fame, or that his what else he's been able to do as a result of that, came from that it is not just the content creation or the influencing now that racks up for him what his influence actually is. So are there not lessons it's a wave, are there not lessons to be learned from this?
There's so many
what
lessons.
Can be done?
There's so many, and I love what you've just said, because Lame is an example of that. People, when people see success, people don't realize how much hard work went in the background to consistently be there. And his example is actually really good, because by just doing this, it's simple. Why are we complicating things? Very relatable, very exportable. It's that reality is something that I think creators today need to understand. It's not just about what you know, what you're speaking of, or what you're demonstrating, or what you're entertaining people about. It's more than that. It's more than the lip syncing and the dances that you do there. That consistency is important. What I've come to realize is that consumers will tend to continually engage with content that is more personalized and more relatable to them. If they relate to it, they'll always come back to it. And that's actually what we're even seeing. Even in advertising, that's what we're seeing. That's the future of advertising. It's personalization. And also brands are catching up with that. And that's why the creator space is growing. So to your question, what we are emphasizing on is if you can be able to consistently do it, understand, what goes where. Kabi wouldn't do that on Facebook.
No.
But it was very snackable on TikTok. Because you're doom scrolling, you're constantly scrolling. This wouldn't have worked on X. You understand?
Yes.
He understood what the platform needed and he was able to actually take advantage of that. So in my mind, understanding what needs the platform have and also understanding your consumer. If you're creating content that's really relatable to them and it gains that virility, then just keep at it. Just keep at it. Yeah.
My question, going back to monetization and treating content creation as a business, is it true that there's a different pricing model for content creators in Kenya or largely Africa compared to Europe and America?
Absolutely. You see, what people forget to realize is that your advertising muscle in any economy is what will drive the ability of a creator to earn more or less. So I'll give an example. Our advertising economy here in Kenya, our size is not as big as South Africa.
Not at all.
It's 7 times. South Africa is 7x Kenya, right? Do you know what China or the US is? Astronomical, right?
It must be crazy.
It must be crazy. Why? Because it's a bigger economy, you have more people, businesses are thriving,
more products,
so more advertising.
And a big advertising culture as well.
Exactly, and a big advertising culture. So with that in mind, with the advertising dollars that are pumped into the system, what then happens is that if you're a creator, then your ability to earn is also more, right? So that will always be a reality, and people don't realize is that. And allow me to just say this: the ability of an advertising economy to grow is also very much dependent on the stringent measures that are actually put in place. From a tax perspective, from a practitioner's perspective, there's quite a lot that actually goes into that.
Yeah.
Right?
No, I guess I don't know what I'm getting. What you're saying.
Yeah.
Let's take a case in point. YouTube.
Yes.
How much do you need in terms of viewership or followers to start earning anything?
I'm not sure how much you need to start earning. What I can tell you is your ability to. So I'll give an example. The cost per view right now on YouTube, as an advertiser, would be on average 2 cents to the dollar, 1 cent to 2 cents to the dollar for every ad that is viewed. Right? That 2 cents is divided between the publisher, the one who's creating the content, and YouTube. Okay? That's set on stone. Now, if I was to run the same ad in the US, do you know how much it would cost? It would cost me probably $2 or $3. Now,
that's 200 times.
It's exactly. So that's what I'm saying.
So then what this then means is for content creators in Kenya or Africa, you already start at a disadvantage because if you gain a million views, for example, you're in Kenya, and Kabi or somebody in the US or in Europe has a million views.
Yes.
They are 100 times ahead.
Exactly.
You can't compete in the same space.
But it's a factor, and I always say this, and I'll sound like a broken telephone because I think every interview I've gone for, I've actually mentioned this. The ability to do business in a certain country goes a long way, because if the ability to create more industry, you guys are talking about manufacturing. We are an we are importing quite a bit.
Net
We're
importer
not
of
building
a lot of
here.
things. Yeah.
Our ability to build here and market here, our population is what, 55 million?
Yeah.
That's massive. It's such a massive population. And people don't realize that our ability to have more businesses here, to create more products, to have more brands, more services, that means there's more competition. That means there's going to be more advertising. It's a domino effect.
It is. It's all connected, isn't it?
And then other markets are not being charged this 5%. What is it?
And is it based on that realization?
Yeah.
Okay.
And one thing that is very important to understand, the fact that TikTok has ways of funds to pay fans is part of the reason why it's the biggest platform for Gen Zs in terms of creating content.
Thank you.
Than YouTube, because YouTube you're waiting for views, and you'll get 1 million views, and you'll get what, 20,000 shillings.
Yeah.
Then, in fact, Kanyari did the math. Kanyari said that he used to get up to 200,000 shillings per day with whenever he would be trending with. What was that thing he did? He was casting out demons from one of your people you don't like. It was a whole thing, but he made a whole bunch of money out of it.
So is this in gifts or TikTok paying him?
So what happens is
TikTok paying.
Yeah, TikTok
gifting.
Gifting.
Yeah.
I know people make money in gifting, but here I'm talking about content, for example, where it's the platform that's paying.
So
you.
in Africa, in most of Africa, including South Africa, the amount of money you make per million views, a million views is a lot.
It's a lot, yeah.
It's a lot. Is not
the same.
Half of what you'll get in the United States.
I'll give another example. And it's also applicable in music, right? I'll take Spotify, for example. Same model. The number of streams music artist gets to make.
Yeah.
The amount of money a music artist gets to make from 1 million streams on the continent is not the same as what they would make abroad. And do you know why? It's based off of the number of subscriptions on the continent. Remember, it's all driven by money in, money out.
Yeah.
So if we are not empowered enough, if our population is not empowered enough to make more money, to put money in, then guess what? However much we're talking about the creator economy and everything that we want to do here, it's not going to work. I mean, it's all great that we're establishing these structures, but I think there's need for us to actually have a bird's eye view of how this actually operates.
True.
Indeed. Is there one need that outdoes the other when it comes to, because you talk about, is it informing, is it educating,
or entertaining?
Yeah. Is there one that outdoes the other in terms of then how you would then be able to gain traction as we come to the end of this?
I think of it as a triangle.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you can choose what you want. There was a very interesting anecdote about the type of woman that you'd want if you're young. And it's the same triangle model. It's the same applies also in content. Is it entertaining? Is it educating me? Or is it informing me? If you can have all three, you're golden. But more often than not, we see the two.
Okay.
It's always one side of the triangle. It's either educating and entertaining, or it's either entertaining and informing, or it's educating and informing. So it's quite interesting.
But entertainment has more creators in it. Right. Information has the least number of creators in it.
And can I tell you something that's interesting? The people who actually double in informing and educating are the fastest growing creators.
True.
That's the biggest. That's the fastest growing category, right?
It's interesting, very interesting. I mean, even as a plug, I think of a lady, a friend of mine called Rena Hicks, who does Money Wise. And when she started, she had 2 views. But today, when the whole world is around this, how do I save, invest? And she can't go anywhere without the walls falling down around her. So I mean, there's an example of it. I mean, Joel Rao is a co-CEO of Dentsu. Has been here with us this morning. The future of content creation and influencing. Definitely, there is a future here, and interesting how we navigate those waters. Thanks for being in the Situation Room this morning.
Thank you.
Pleasure to have you here.
Thank you so much.
Again, this time in person.
Yeah, in person. I hope it's not going to take 5 years.
Oh, no. Come on. The future of influencing is here and now and present.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.